Hi guys, welcome to a new episode. Actually, I'm very excited about this episode because we will cover the BI solution for the scenario we covered in the previous episode. We will employ cutting-edge techniques and technologies like ChatGPT and Python scripts to deliver a BI solution that exactly fit the purpose we discussed in the previous episode. Before we do that, make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay updated with the new contents. If you still didn't watch the previous episode where we covered the scenario for today's BI solution, don't worry. I've left a link for you in the comments. Have a look after you finish here. But here a quick refresher on the scenario we covered. You are tasked to develop a dashboard to benchmark how big tech companies dealt with the pandemic. And we applied the 4Ws formula to guide us in developing a spot-on BI solution. In the previous episode, we covered the business requirements. Okay, let's see where we left things. First, we tried to understand the why, the real trigger behind the dashboard, and we discovered the revenue is not recovered as expected, and the business development team lost key members due to salary cuts during the pandemic. And we also discovered that the key audience for this dashboard is the business development head, and during our research, we discovered how he prefers to view the reports and access them. Also, we discovered that most of the data we have is in PDF format, coming from the annual reports for big tech companies. Today, we want to cover the how part, or developing the report. And based on what we covered in the business requirements research, we discovered that the dashboard needs to be simple, maximum 2 pages, one summary page and one detailed page. And we need to be able to view information related to the pandemic directly extracted from the PDF files within the annual reports for the big tech companies. And also, it will be good to have some trends data related to revenues, and maybe also adding the turnover of employees trends. And few slicers and filters can be added to the dashboard, and the dashboard needs to be published in the Power BI service and viewed from web as a browser or from mobile app. So now let's go dig deeper to developing the BI solution. So grab a cup of coffee and let's dive in. Guys, I always get the same question from people. Do we need to learn coding in order to be a BI consultant? Man, if I get one subscriber for each time someone asks me this question, this channel would take off really quickly. Anyhow, if you too have the same question, let's leave it to the end of this episode and I will answer it for you. Right now, let's jump in straight to the code. Okay guys, here we go. If you remember during the research part, the business development team wanted to use the annual financial reports issued by big tech companies to benchmark how they dealt with the COVID pandemic. And they passed you those 7 reports for 7 big tech companies. Now, if we try to see one of those reports, you'll find that they are big PDF reports. For example, Alphabet is 136 pages, and all the other reports are the same. In total, we have around 800 pages we need to go through. What we're gonna do here, we'll use Python to go through all of these pages and find the topics related to COVID, pandemic, extract all the text from there, and also extract the pages containing those paragraphs and highlight them. Finally, export those PDFs into a format that we can view in Power BI. Seems a lot, right? But the good news, we already covered this in previous episode. The episode we talked about search and highlight PDFs in Power BI. I included a link in the description for your reference. So let's recall that code. First, open Python development environment. And let's load the code. Here's the code. Now, as I said, this is exactly the same code we used in that episode, but we have a minor tweak here. And instead of processing the 800 pages and all the paragraphs in those pages, we're only interested in the paragraphs that contain reference for the COVID pandemic. And this is what we have done here. We added an if statement that only looks for those 2 words, pandemic or COVID. So whenever the code comes across a paragraph that contains one of those 2 words, process it. Otherwise, don't. This will simplify the process a lot for us and control the size of the outputs. There's one small note here you need to pay attention to. Python is case sensitive. For this reason, we provided the word in lowercase and also converted the text in each of the paragraphs in a lowercase. With this minor tweak, we're ready to run this code. You only need to feed in the correct directory and from run module. Now, if you go have a look, we can see the files are started to get processed here, and we are done. Now, if we go to the CSV directory, we can see that CSV file created for each of the files. If we look into those CSV files, we'll find only extracted the paragraphs that containing reference to the COVID pandemic. Okay, now we have the CSV files ready. let's import them to Power BI. Just open Power BI, get data. We'll process all the CSV files together, all the contents of a folder. Connect. We feed in the path. Now go to transform data. So the only column we're interested in is the content column. So right click, remove other columns, then we expand. So let's just click OK, load all the contents, and we have the contents loaded. Let's go to transform, use the first row as header, then from filter, filter the blanks and filter the headers from the other CSV files. Click OK, and here we can see that some text contain this character. We can filter it out. Just select one of them here, copy, just right click on that column and go to replace values, paste the character and replace it with nothing and hit OK. Of course, if there is a need to go through some of the text here and eliminate or filter out some of the information that are not relevant, you can do it here directly. However, for our scenario, we'll keep it as is. We're just gonna create a link that we'll use later to link with the other tables. The link we're gonna use is the reference ID. So let's duplicate this, and obviously the source or the file. So let's duplicate column. And from the copied columns, let's select first the source or the company name, hold the shift and the ID copy. Right click, merge columns, and we will create one custom separator. Use the underscore and give it the name link. Here we go, we have the link column. And let's load to Power BI. Here we go, we have all the data loaded. In the similar way to previous episode where we covered how to deal with PDF in Power BI, we're gonna create a column to merge all the base64 code into one column. Right click on the table, new column, name it PDF contents, equals, paste, and we're done. And that's it, we have our PDF contents is ready. Now we're ready to move to the next part, ChatGPT part. This is the part everyone loves, offloading the hard, boring work to AI. I actually like it too, because it frees my time to work on the valuable part of the solution. Okay, now let's see what AI and ChatGPT can do for us. Okay guys, now after we exported all the contents from the PDF files of the reports, we want to find a way to summarize them in a way that we can present them in our scenario to the business development head. And to do this, we'll have some fun with AI, specifically with ChatGPT. So here's what we're gonna do. Let's go to Power BI again. Let's use a table and feed to it the source or the company name and then the paragraphs or the merged column. From the three dots here, export data and name it Python output. Now let's go open that file. Here we have all the paragraphs processed by Python. So what we're gonna do here now, we'll use ChatGPT to summarize those points for us. So all what we need to do here is to put the request in the right words and we'll get any results we want. I have tested a few ways of getting the data, and when I reached the proper format, I saved it in a text file here. So this is the first request. So what I want ChatGPT to do for me is summarize how the companies from the list below that I'm gonna provide in a second recovered financially from COVID using the list of items I provided below. And make sure to include numbers, so if there is financial data I want it to be included. Also show the reference and the company name for each bullet point. So the idea here, I want to be able to link it back to the PDFs using a similar format to the link we created in Python script. And also I ask here that each bullet point to be 1-2 lines, like as a summary. And finally, I ask to put the results in a table with 3 columns. Column 1, company name. Column 2, the bullet point. And column 3, the reference, which I'm gonna use it as a link. Open double quote, go back to the CSV file. And just to avoid the size issue, we'll take one company at a time. I'll take one and repeat the same process for all other companies. Control C, copy. And Control V, paste, and close the quotes and send. And let ChatGPT do the magic. Please note that the provided references are not actual sources but placeholders for the purpose of this response. So basically it didn't get us something from the internet, it used the list we provided, and this is exactly what we want. So let's just copy this table as is, Control C, go to a new Excel file and paste. And we are done for Alphabet. We need to repeat this for all of the companies. So here we go. I got summary bullet points for all the companies, the 7 of them. And what we achieved here is 2 things. First, if you go to the original list, you'll find some of the text is huge. So we summarized them to 1 or 2 lines. The second thing that ChatGPT did for us is grouping them. For example, it summarizes here 2 paragraphs. You can see here we have 2 references from our list into 1, which make it easier to present in a dashboard. So this is the first part achieved with ChatGPT. The second part, we can use it to categorize those bullet points. So we have 52 bullet points. It would be nice to have them in categories. Let's say maximum 4 categories. So what we can do, we can use ChatGPT again to add the category for this table. I already prepared and tested the query for that. So this is the query. Let me copy it. For the table below, the one we got from the first step with ChatGPT, create 4 categories to group the points for each of the companies and add a column for the category. Finally, put them in a table. Maintain the same structure of the table, just add another column named category. Use the same category for all companies. So now let's go back to the results of the first table. Copy it as is, all of it. Control copy and back and paste. Since those all summary points, I don't think we'll have a problem with the size. So just let's send the query. And here we go, the magic is done. It's created categories to group the points for each of the companies. Now there is one last thing we need to use ChatGPT for, which is create 1 paragraph summary for each company. We want to create a summary page in the dashboard that contains a general summary of how each company dealt with COVID. And to do this, again, I prepared and tested the query. Create summary paragraph for the list I provided below. Summary should be around 100 words for each company in a table format, with 2 columns. Column 1 the company name and column 2 the summary. So going back to the same list again, copy and paste. Close, hit enter. And here we go, it started to create summaries for us, for each of the companies. Now we go back to our Power BI file, go to transform data, from home, new source, Excel workbook, select the ChatGPT. First we take the categorized points and then the summary and load. And there is some transformation we need to do to the categorized table. First, from transform, use first row as headers, and then we want to create the links. But before we do that, we need to make sure that each reference is in 1 row. For this reason, let's split these references into new columns first. Select the reference column, right click, split column by delimiter, use the comma. Okay, now each reference is a separate row. So what we need to do first, select all of them, right click, and from transform, trim. This will remove any space from those columns. The next thing you need to do while they are selected, go to unpivot columns, and here the columns converted to rows for us. We don't need this. Let's just rename this reference again. So this is the format we want, because we will use the reference as a link, and the bullet points and the categories grouping the references for us. The last thing we need to do is creating the link. So let's duplicate this column, right click, duplicate column, and duplicate the company names column, and select first the company name copy column, and then the reference copy, and then right click, merge columns. We'll use custom separator, just like the first part in Python, underscore, and we name it link. We're done with this table. Now for the summary tables, we simply need to go to transform, use first row as header, and we're done. Let's close and apply. Now the last thing we need to do before we start developing the dashboard is creating the relationships. They are already created for us using the link and the company name. Now between the financial report coming out of Python and the categorized points coming out of ChatGPT, we want the points to filter the financial report. For this reason, we need to select this relationship and from here make it both sides and click apply changes. And now we're ready to develop the dashboard. Okay guys, let's start with the report development. If you remember, we got the financial reports from the PDFs in the Python script part. Then we got the categorized points from ChatGPT and also the summary points. And I also added a couple of tables. They're just simple tables. If we go to data view, one of them shows the turnover rate across the years from 2015 to 2021. Turnover rate is basically measures the amount of employees leaving the company over the number of employees, and also the revenues across the same years and just showing the revenues in a very high level summarized way. The idea is, based on our research for our scenario, we found out our main audience, the business development head, is always interested in seeing these trends. For this reason, we'll use them in the dashboard. Also, based on our research about our audience, we found out that we need to have a summary page that shows an executive summary and also a detailed page. For this reason, we'll develop this dashboard to have two pages. One, a summary page, we'll name it summary, preferences page. Just like in the previous episodes, I prepared the background to be imported from format page, canvas background, browse. This is the summary page I prepared. Now we have the background imported. The summary page will have two parts. The first part will show the current trends for the revenues and turnover rate, and the second part will show the results of the benchmark. Let's start with the trends. We'll use the KPI visual. We'll feed in the revenues and the trend to be years. Also, we'll create a measure to get us the value of the previous year and add it to the target field. So let's create this simple measure, new measure. We name it previous value revenues equal calculate max revenue and filter it for the previous year. Here we go, we have the measure ready. Let's feed it to the target. And we can see now it compares the values between 2020 to 2021. We'll create the same KPI for the turnover. Now let's format this first. And for this one, the trend axis, because as the turnover increases, that means more employees leave. So high is not good, high is bad. We need to change the direction to low is good. Now let's change the title. Okay, this section is ready. Let's go to the benchmarking section. First, we'll add a slicer for the company. So from visuals, let's take the default slicer. And from the summary table, feed to it the company name. And let's change the slicer settings from format, slicer setting, make it tile. The next part, we want to add a visual to show the executive summary we created from ChatGPT. For that, we'll import a visual. From get more visuals, search for story. You can find this visual, Enlighten Data Story, add it. Let's use it for the summary. From the summary table, feed in the summary column. Just format it. Now we will add a table to list down the bullet points we got from ChatGPT. So we'll use a normal table from here. and feed to it from categorized points the category first and then the bullet point. Let's rename it to summary point and format this table just a little bit. That's it, we have all the visuals for the summary page. Let's do some basic formatting for them. Apply the same for all, and after some basic formatting, this is the final look. Now let's go to the references page. First we import the canvas background, and now we'll use the PDF visual, just the same visual we used in previous episodes. Just get more visual and download the PDF viewer and feed to it from the financial reports the PDF contents. So let's add a table to navigate between the different PDF files, and we feed to it from the financial reports again the ID. Let's name it reference and do some basic formatting. And we also add one more visual to show the summary bullet point on the top of each of the PDFs, and we will feed to it from the categorized points the bullet point. Just simple formatting. And we'll apply the same format for the other visuals. Now let's try if the filter works. Yes, it works, and we can navigate between the different PDF pages. Now the idea is we want to be able to drill through from the summary page to this reference page using the bullet points or the summary points. For this reason, at the page level, we want to add the bullet point as a drill through field along with the company name. Once we added drill through filters, we can see the back button is automatically shown there. So whenever you come to this page using drill through, you can go back to the summary page from here automatically. And we are done with the references page. Let's go back to the summary page. If you right click on any of the summary points, you can see the drill through option to references appear. Now, one thing to remember, during our research for the scenario, we found out that our main audience can use either the web or mobile phone to access the dashboard. For this reason, it will be difficult for them to drill through by right-click and drill through. What we need to do, we need to add a button to drill through to the reference page. And from Insert, Buttons, just use blank button. And let's do conditional formatting to show a text here to ask the user to select a summary point from the list below to be able to see the resources. So just like the previous episodes, we need to create one simple measure. So right click on the categorized points, new measure. So basically this is the same measure we used before. What it does here for us, if there is nothing selected from the bullet points or more than one is selected, select one summary point from the list to access references. But if there is one selected, show this message. Click here to go to references. Let's apply it to the button. Select the button and from style, activate the text. For the text show, use from conditional formatting and select the measure we just created. Single select, okay. So now let's try it. So nothing is selected, it gives this message. If one is selected, it gives click here to go to references. And let's quickly format this. Activate the fill. For the default, we'll use the background color as this with transparency 0. When it's disabled, we'll use the same color with the transparency to 80. And finally, for this button, activate the action. From the list, from the type, we select drill through and the destination to be references. Try to test the dashboard. For example, let's look into one of the companies, IBM. We can see the executive summary here. Nicely summarizes how IBM dealt with COVID. So now if you want to dig deeper to one of those categories, for example, operational highlights, prioritized, health and safety of employees, clients, and partners throughout the pandemic. Let's see the references for this. Click on this, click go to references. You can see we have 4 different references. Let's look to one of them. You can see here the reference is listed and highlighted. And that's it, guys. Okay guys, we promised a spot-on BI solution that exactly fits the purpose, and this is precisely what we delivered. Not less, more, maybe a little more. We gave our audience a tool that not only allows them to search and benchmark, but also it nudges them into implementing corrective actions in an effortless, seamless way. We made sure not to overwhelm our audience with so much details and information that they don't need. We just give them what they need to make the right call, saving their time and your time as a BI developer. And this is what I call a spot-on BI solution. If you like the contents of this episode, please hit the like button. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. And please leave comments with your valuable feedback. Also, as a bonus for you, I included all the sources for this episode in a link in the description for you, including the Python code, the Power BI file, even the query I used in ChatGPT. Now, let's go back to the question, do you need to learn coding in order to be a BI consultant? Well, the short answer is no. But if you want to be among the top 10% in this field, then yes, you need to learn coding. The best way to see this is to reflect on what we have done in this episode. While we were developing our BI solution, we used Python script to go through over 800 PDF pages. Locating a specific topic on these pages, highlight the paragraphs containing these topics, then creating a separate page and save it in base64 format. Now, think about it. Can we actually get all of this without coding? We managed to get these results in few minutes. Actually, the whole BI solution would take a couple of hours of your time if you know what you're doing. Maybe half a day if you're new to this. Now, imagine doing all of this without coding and without AI. If this was even possible, how much time and resources would it take? Let that sink in for a moment and you will get the answer for the question. If you still have your doubts, I encourage you to go and watch the episodes where I covered how to handle PDFs in Power BI. For the sake of this moment, I intentionally built them up in a way to show all the possible options. Starting with no code in the first part of episode 1, to a hybrid approach in the second part of episode 1 and in episode 2, and finally to fully automated approach in episode 3. I've included links for those episodes in the description for you. Now, here is one final trick for you. If you really want to learn coding, you can utilize ChatGPT. It can actually write full Python codes for you. But probably you will need to do some tweaks to the script coming out of ChatGPT to fit the purpose you're using the script for. Here's a thought for you. I encourage you to utilize ChatGPT to develop a script for the use case we covered today. And if you do that, please do let me know in the comments. I'm extremely curious about this. Okay guys, in the next episode I have exciting tricks for you to build an appealing KPIs dashboard. So keep watching. And for now, peace.